Myself and Littyyy Bro Flacko. Unfortunately, Littyyy Bro Flacko was unable to be here today, so I will rush through his introductionary stuff as he would want me to do in his honor not being here. And he would be a little more dramatic and elaborate. It is what it is, and it is great to have you here with us, Mr. Robbin Marx. But he would introduce you, hype you up in a lot more detail than I have. I just know you're doing real well on TikTok, and you seem to know a lot of good stuff. So I'm looking forward to this. And then he would say a little bit the history, how we all got started together on the show. And it has to do with the fact that he put out his Littyyy Bros project, the volume 1, last year. It was doing the promo run, but it had been mixed by the local guy Marco Miyagi, somebody who I know just through the Facebook life of being in the local Montreal scene. And then he shares the track. I hear it. This leads to a little bit of an album review. He sees my album review and he likes what I do with it. And this leads to us having an interview. He said something about how he felt it was a therapeutic experience, and he was surprised upon how much nobody asked him questions of the same vein upon how I approach it. And then something about, I think you're muted. Or
No, I'm good. I'm good. I was
Okay, no
talking to
worries.
my kids.
Oh, no worries. That's definitely a professional Zoom parent right there. But and then basically we started doing this show because he liked the experience, and we've been running it since about end of December. And with that, we like to kind of get it off started. If you could just kind of introduce yourself a little bit briefly, tell us a little bit who you are, where you come from, and where your parents come from is how we start
Yep.
this.
Yep. So my name is Robbin Marx. I was born in Brooklyn, New York, and my parents are both from the West Indies. My mother is of African descent. My father is of Chinese descent, but they both were born and raised in Trinidad and Tobago in the Caribbean.
So that's dope. So you're
Yeah.
from Brooklyn, and that's super relevant for the proper opening question. Because as much as you might be the coach these days, once upon a time you was the musician guy, and we do like to walk through the whole journey of people here. And the opening question is a little bit of a story. And when it lands, you can kind of take it in whatever direction it makes the most sense. It starts with my girlfriend, and she's washing the dishes. And she's playing that Black Eyed Peas song on her phone, the I Got a Feeling. Ooh. She's vibing, she's dancing, she's doing her thing. And I'm looking at her, and I'm like, when the fuck did this become dishes music? Like, she's doing chores. Like, when did this song become this, right? Because if you think about this track, right, like, this song is like a vibe back in the day. Run it back 10 years. We all super drunk in the clubs, dancing around, doing our thing. 10 years goes by. The song does not change at all because it's a song. But we change so much that the context evolves that now it's like you're running, you're going to the gym, you're doing some chores, you're cleaning up, you're doing something kind of boring, and you throw on that song to kind of bring you back to happier times. And I'm like, say word, that's a wild epiphany, because then I started thinking about the little ones, the 20-year-olds running around doing their partying now, and I'm like, they have no idea that they're going to grow up and effectively be us doing dishes one day to that Cardi B whatnot. And then I realized we're doing dishes to Cardi B. It's just what it is, club music.
We do dishes to everything.
But it's just that. It's like it all turns into like chores music and stuff to bring us to the best of times almost. And so with that, it kind of like made me think about musical journeys and the way that interviews happen and the way that people talk about it. And you'll find most people almost bring it back to like this adolescent age, right? Where people are like, finding their identity. I discovered hip hop at this point. I started writing poetry when I'm 12. And so it's like all like in the middle of the story somewhere, right? If you think about music, it's kind of like one of those things that's always around us, like to the point where like when you popped up the womb in a hospital type thing, there was probably a song playing that you were absorbing in that environment. And so I realized that we don't really start the story right when we do tell our stories. Like I can think about being 4 or 5 years old. My parents got like these gray boxes in the room, the amp, the fucking tape deck, the radio, all the wires going together out to all these speakers. My dad would bust his Led Zeppelin tapes and things like that. And at nighttime, it would be Montreal club music coming straight from the live environments over there. My mom's was more into like discos and musicals and soft rock on the radios and things like that. And all of these different sounds and locations each had their own environment, and they all kind of contributed greatly towards the kind of experiences that I would go on to have later on in my life, especially with regards to my own musical journey. So I was hoping, Mr. Robbin Marx, you could bring us back to being the youngest Robbin Marx that you can remember and walk us through a little bit what it sounded like to be you before you had any real control over the sounds in your world.
No, that's a really great question, and I can appreciate the way you kind of set it up and framed it for me. I would say that I have pretty good knowledge of like my childhood. I remember a lot. I can remember as small as 2 and 3 years old. I have memories. You know, they're little pockets. You know, I don't remember every single day, but there's certain events that occurred that I can go back to, and I can like smell the air and taste the food. You know what I'm saying? So for the music, it's the same way. My moms and my pops, I'll start with my pops. My pops wasn't the most musical guy. He wasn't like, hey, put on my song. You know, he drove cab for many years, and in the car with him when I was a kid, I would like sit in the passenger side with him, and he would listen to really like you know, solid gold oldies type music, like 50s music. So I was listening to that kind of stuff, Buddy Holly, you know, those kind of jams. And my mom's, on the other hand, she was a music head. She was like, you would hear calypso music, traditional Trinidadian music, calypso running in our house, reggae music pumping in our house. Also, she was super duper Americanized. So my mom, she was a elementary school dropout. You know what I'm saying? My mother didn't have a full education. She dropped out of school, I think in the 4th or 5th grade, got pregnant when she was like 13 or 14 years old, had her first child, had a really rough start to her life. Fast forward to when I was a baby, my mother had moved to America and become a small business owner and started doing people's hair out of her apartment at first. And then because the business became successful and she started to build an audience that really gravitated towards her, she wasn't the best hairdresser, but she had a really good personality. You know what I'm saying? She ended up opening a brick and mortar beauty parlor that operated for many years, ended up buying a house in New York City, you know what I'm saying, from a girl from the islands who had a 4th grade education. So she was super Americanized, and she would like pull up Whitney Houston, Michael Jackson. Like, she was a fanatic about Michael Jackson. Me and my brother had the jackets, the beater jackets. Like, he had the red one, I had the black one. I was mad because I didn't have the red one. You know what I'm saying? And you know, so in my house, like all of those musical elements at the time, I didn't know that that's what would kind of guide me towards my mission in life. You know what I'm saying? But at the time, I just remember it being a really pleasant, upbeat, and fun environment to grow up in.
And when you were like young, were you like into singing and dancing and kind of being charismatic? Because usually the people who say Michael Jackson tend to go hard on that Michael Jackson fandom
Yeah.
when they're little.
Yeah. So for me, my older brother was that. I was not at that age. I was really shy. And I think it had a lot to do with the fact that my brother, very much like my mom's, had a very, very, you know, big personality. He was one of the more popular kids in our neighborhood. We would have birthday parties and people would all show up for him. I would have birthday parties. They would all show up for him. So it was like, it didn't matter what was happening. It was more about my brother than it was about me. And I think because of that, I kind of hid in his shadow when I was really small. So, I wasn't really, you know, outspoken or wanting to perform. I was really shy. It wasn't until my, I would say, middle school and then high school years where I kind of went into that.
That's fair. So I guess because we don't have as much time as normal, I would say we could jump ahead into those like high school years. What like made you kind of go down that path of getting involved in music? And you're still in Brooklyn at this time?
No. I actually relocated to Atlanta, Georgia last year in October.
No, I
So
mean like
we're
back
new.
then when you were younger.
Oh yeah. I grew up, born and raised in Brooklyn, lived there. I did live in Manhattan for a couple of months, you know, for my 2nd grade year. But for my elementary school days were all in New York City. And then when I was in middle school, going into high school, my father remarried and we moved down south to North Carolina.
Oh, so during the high school period, you're down in so you go down to South Carolina. No, sorry,
North Carolina.
North Carolina.
Yeah, North Carolina. Yep. And down there is when I really got serious about rap. Before then, you know, I was writing rhymes when I was in middle school. You know what I'm saying? Like, that was something that kind of came with the turf, being a kid growing up in, you know, the late 80s, early 90s. Like, everybody was about some rap stuff. And then when I got in high school, it's like everyone had to kind of like pick a lane. Like, were you going to be an athlete? Were you going to really lock in on your books? you know, were you gonna, you know, be a troublemaker? And it was kind of a lane that wasn't filled, and it was like the rapper. And I was like, oh, I want to be the rapper of the school. Like that's my thing. So even then, I feel like I had an idea of finding a niche for myself that maybe wasn't saturated, finding a lane that, you know, a whole lot of other people weren't doing, so I could essentially try to be the best in that lane. You know what I'm saying?
Right. So how do you like get into rapping as a middle school person in North Carolina? Like, is it just you start like spitting bars? Do you have like opportunities to perform at school? Like, how do you actually manifest this?
Yep. So for me, again, when I was 9, I started writing rhymes. So I was in the 3rd grade in New York City is my first impression of hip hop. And God rest his dead, Biz Markie and Big Daddy Kane were shooting a video in the back of my friend's apartment building, and I was spending the night at his house. And we were looking out the window the whole night. We stayed up until like 2, 3 in the morning, just looking at them, yelling at them, trying to get them to look back. And that was my first real like up close and personal encounter with hip hop. And from there, I knew that I wanted to start rapping. And Big Daddy Kane was my guy. He spelled his name, and I was like, the BIGDDYKANE. Like, what? Like, how did he say that? How did he do that? I want to do that, you know. And my name became Robbie D. You know what I'm saying? So I started doing like, my name is Robbie D, and the place to be at 9 years old. And then fast forward to North Carolina. I was again, I had went back into my shell because I was in a new place, and down there at the time there wasn't much diversity. So I was really like an anomaly essentially. I was like, people didn't know, are you white? Are you black? Like, what's happening with you? Why do you look like that? And what table are you sitting at? You know what I'm saying? And at that time, it was really black and white. It wasn't like any Hispanic people. It wasn't any Asian people. It wasn't any mixed people there. You know what I'm saying? People who are biracial. There was none of that happening. You know what I'm saying? So that because of that, I kind of closed myself in and kind of really dived into like my creativity. So I would write stories, I would write rhymes, and then my cousin moved to live with us. My cousin through marriage. His name is Injai, aka Juzik. He's on a bunch of my records with me. And when he moved down there, it kind of gave me like some support. And I was like, okay, so now I can get a little more open about what I'm doing in terms of my rhymes and stuff. So I would share with him. He started rapping and writing because I was doing it. And by the time we were 15 or 16, we started doing small little shows in North Carolina.
Say word. And you like, where were these at, like bars and whatnot? And you would just like sneak in, or?
No, they were like showcases. Our main big show was at a place. I want to say it was Peppers or one of these clubs, like at that time. But it was like a daytime event, family friendly kind of event, and they had some showcases. It was like 5 people in the crowd. Half of them was our family, you know. But we got on stage, and it was a moment. And then from there it was just kind of like me knowing when my classmates were applying for colleges. I was like sending my record label to my demo tape to record labels. You know what I'm saying? So like that was my focus. I wasn't like, okay, so I got to go to UNC.
How did you go about recording?
I would record on a karaoke machine in my crib. So we had like a little karaoke machine, 2 tapes. Anybody who's really, really old school knows that we used to do this. We would take one tape and play it, and the other one we would record. So the beat would be on one tape, the other one would be recording it. The sound quality was horrible. You know, it was not good at all, but we had a mic, we had a way to create, and we believed that our bars were so good that we would like get a record deal. So we was sitting in the crib, this is me when I was in the 11th, 12th grade. All I was doing was focused on, getting a record deal. Mind you, I was still focused on my studies. I was like not giving up on school. I was very much an academic. I had really good grades, principals list, honor roll. But towards the end, especially in my senior year, I kind of tapered off a bit because my mother passed away my senior year of high school. And that kind of sent me into a downward spiral, if you will. And I kind of got off track in terms of my academics. But the focus of being a professional rapper was still very much a target.
So what do you do then, I guess, after high school to pursue this? Like, how do you, how does one finish high school? Because I don't even know a lot about North Carolina, the dynamics. I don't even know if it's a big hip hop place. I guess Charlotte's there, and that has a scene now.
Now, yeah. Back then, it wasn't really anything happening. I think the biggest act that came out during that time period was PD Pablo. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He came out and kind of put North Carolina on the map. But I was still repping New York. I was like, I lived in North Carolina, but I was definitely repping New York. And you know what most people do in any kind of sport or game or passion, they want to get with the team that's doing well. And at the time, you know, the warriors of hip hop, you know, that was the Wu-Tang clan. You know what I'm saying? So in my high school days, like Wu-Tang was like number one. Like it wasn't even arguable. Like it was just the fact, like Wu-Tang was the best out at the time. So I had a friend of mine, his name is Darren Cooks. His brother actually lived in Staten Island with he grew up with the Wu-Tang, you know what I'm saying? And he was roommates with Capadonna. So when I finished high school, I went to go to community college for a short period of time. And at the end of community college, at the end of the semester, they give you a refund on your grant money. So I had like $800. I thought I was rich. I was like, yo, they gave me $800. Yo, I was like, let's go to Staten Island. Like, let's go to Staten Island. Let's go. I'm going to go join the Wu-Tang. And I told my father at 17 years old, I was like, Dad, I got this dream. I want to do this thing. I'm going to have to leave. And my dad argued with me and fought and was like, no, you're gonna ruin your life, you can't do this, you're gonna get in trouble, you're gonna die, like all of these things. And I was like, trust me, like this is my mission, this is what I'm supposed to do. So I packed up at 17 years old, left home with $800 in my pocket, and moved to Staten Island to join the Wu-Tang.
That is incredible. And what happened when you got to Staten Island?
That might be a whole nother podcast, but I would say that I was taken in by Darren's brother, whose name is Blue, and Capadonna. I was living in the same house with Capadonna, Blue, and my friend Darren.
You got to live with Capadonna.
I sat at the table and wrote rhymes with him. You know, I was trying to get him to mentor me. You know what I'm saying? And you know, I think I wasn't really, you know, I guess advanced enough to understand what was happening with them, because this is at the time where I believe Donna had just came out of jail not too long, you know, before that, and Winter Wars dropped. So his stock was as high as it could be. So Winter Wars dropped, and that was really the introduction to him. And people got that taste of him, like, and that summer, it was like Winter Wars was on the radio every single day, all day, every day, Hot 97. The other song that was rocking was Killing Them Softly by the Fugees, you know what I'm saying? So this is that summer. And I was in the crib with them, like, you know, not, and I won't go into details, but I was up to no good. I should have been a little more, you know, intelligent about the decisions that I was making. And in the end, being in that environment, I saw a lot of death. I saw a lot of, you know, unsavory activities. But I think more than anything, as an MC, that helped me to kind of create based on environment and tell and create narratives in my bars, because I had so much to write about. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't about like, you know, oh, like technically, like that line there, you need to tighten that up. Like no one did that for me there. When I, and it was another guy, his name is Sense. He's not as famous, but he was definitely like, he grew up with those guys. I spent a lot of time with Killer K, who is Raekwon's little brother and his manager now. Like I was in that age group of people who hung out in that time. And you know, for me, I think the biggest takeaway from the experience was being able to like look at your environment and then put it down into paper. And that's the biggest takeaway from there.
Yeah, everyone, you've had at least 2 people comment on how young you look, and given what you're saying, you probably aren't anywhere near as young as you look.
No, I'm in my 40s.
Damn.
Yeah.
That's big respect.
And you know, I think, you know, the biggest thing for me, you know, and this is new because if you would have interviewed me a year ago, I would look different, you know, because most recently, you know, my wife had COVID, came down with COVID, and it changed a lot for us. You know, she was hospitalized and it scared the hell out of us. She was away for like a week and change, and we didn't know what was going to happen. And when she finally came home on Christmas Day of 2020, me and her kind of like looked at each other and was like, yo, we got to get our stuff together, because, you know, I have a lot of, family history of certain diseases. And like, I want to make sure that I do put my best foot forward to at least take care of myself. So for since March of 2021, me and her have been on a health journey, you know what I'm saying? Health and fitness journey. And we've been like working out, we're eating good. Like we are participating in a program. We hold each other accountable. We're in a collective and a cohort of people who hold each other accountable. And like, I think that's a part of why I show up the way I show up, is because I'm trying my best to take care of myself so I could be there for my kids when they graduate.
Yeah, it's amazing stills, man. I
Thank
appreciate
you,
that a
man.
lot. I think it's a lot simpler with like your partner to be able to run through that together and like make that a focus goal. Like
Yep.
that's a really good goal.
Yeah, yeah. And for me, it wasn't for me. I didn't want to do it. I was like, I'm good. I want to just live my life. I just want to eat my burgers. And she was like, I need to do this, and I need you to do it with me. And right then I was like, you know what, let me do this. And it was one of the best decisions I ever made in my life.
So you basically, fair enough. So with the health stuff, I think it's really incredible, and it does explain why you look good. But even with that, you look younger than me. So like, that's pretty like,
It
regardless
might be
of.
the facial hair too. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't do facial hair, so that's another thing too. And I would say, just on that health note, that before I started this program that I'm in right now, I actually had a pre-diabetic status. So I was testing, my blood was testing as pre-diabetic. But that's something that you can reverse if you take certain steps, exercise, and eat healthier. After about 6 months of doing that program, my blood work came back and I'm no longer pre-diabetic. So like we're dead serious about health around here.
Yeah, it's an important thing. Yeah, as I get older and my life gets more interesting, I feel like health becomes a more important priority to me.
Yeah.
It makes it easier to balance stuff. But with you though, so you basically go to Staten Island, and you probably have a wealth of stories that we can get you back on the show. You can run through with more details because we definitely need some of those. But so you kind of like move into this like more prominent music career if you're in like the purview of Wu members and stuff. Like that's it's gotta like.
No, no, not really. It wasn't. I think for me, I was like a grunt. I was not like, it wasn't like, it was like I wasn't even in the D League. I was probably the D League water boy. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't like I went to be like, y'all want to try out for the team, put me on. I want to be like the new Method Man. Like, can I get in the clan? And I couldn't even like get into, to the D League. However, I would say in my time there, besides writing with Donna, I had the opportunity to go to the studio with some of the young guns. There was a guy, Method Man's little cousin, Lala. He passed away, but I did a record with him. And again, the experience was rich, but it wasn't like rapper glorious at all. You know what I'm saying? I think after that, because I had sharpened my sword so much sitting at the table working with Capadonna and being in that environment, that then the next stage of my journey was where I worked on the technical aspect of rapping and like really getting good at bars. And that was me leaving New York, leaving Staten Island, pretty much with my tail between my legs, because I had gotten in some trouble and I needed to like reset and restart. And I moved back to North Carolina, back home after being away for a year and a half. And then I got a job and I bumped into this guy named Smarty Fresh. He's one of my guys to this day. But we were working at a plant, like making faucets, you know what I'm saying? And he was like, "Oh, you rap? I rap. Okay, we rap, whatever." Long story short, he ends up taking me every weekend to go to Virginia to go to this radio station that Mad Skills and Danger Mouth and Lonnie B had a show, the Super Friends. They had a show. And this was the time of like the renaissance of VA hip hop, you know what I'm saying? So this is like Missy, Timbaland, the Neptunes, all that was happening. And the Super Friends were kind of in the mix with that. So when I would go there, like it was that kind of a vibe. The only difference was, unlike in Staten Island, the vibe was rap. It was only rap. It was no street stuff. It was only rap. So every weekend I would go and just sharpen my sword and get better and better. And that's when I really started feeling like, you know what, I could really do something with this talent.
That's the first time anyone has actually said something like "there's no street stuff, it's only rap." Like that's all they care
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
any environment. That's wild, David. I never even realized that was like a factor that played into stuff like that so deeply. As in like, I mean, you know it, but like you don't really think about it till somebody says it out loud, kind of things. But
Yep.
yeah, I don't know a lot about Virginia. I just know it exists. I just
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
I was like,
It's a place.
you said VA, and I'm like, I had to think about
What
what
is it?
I had to think for a second. But then you listed all the people, and I'm like, oh, say word, I know what he's talking about. That did hit Montreal pretty heavy. But we just looked at it like American, like we do with
Yeah.
most things like that are not from New York or LA. But so you're basically back there and you're freestyling on the radio. Are you participating in the
It was
scene?
a little bit of both. It was a little bit of both. It was, I would say, like a pack of lions in a pit, and then the mic was like a stake, and that's how people were like for the mic, like, oh, I want to get next, because you want to also impress. You know, you want to be like, you don't want to walk away from the session like, oh, like he was all right. You want to walk away like, yo, that one kid with the blue shirt, like he was killing it. So that was that environment. It was super competitive. It wasn't a battle, you know, show or anything. It was just like an open mic cipher type of radio show live on the airwaves on, I believe it was Richmond University's radio station.
That's a cool experience still. And so you're running that for a while. And I guess, how does that evolve for you, and what comes after that phase?
Yep. So then I ended up moving to Florida. A recruiter came to my house for a school in Florida. And after that, I kind of just went down with one of my guys. His name is Cody, AKA Shah's son. He went down there with me. He's the only person I knew. We ended up building relationships with a bunch of different people, including DJ Nasty, who is, you know, one of the producers from DJ Khaled's We Are the Best. And at the time, he was like just a radio DJ. And we were in the scene going to the clubs, like kind of trying to get on, like, yo, put me on Nasty. So finally, Nasty's like, all right, Webb, like, why don't you come over to the crib and record something? And the first time I ever got in the radio was with DJ Nasty. And that was a big moment for me. And then from there, I connected with a gentleman named Rick Blast, who is another one of my brothers, and he put me down with a crew called 7Ds based out of Buffalo, New York. And he was going to the same school, and he was like, yo, you got to join my clique. Like, what's up? So I was like, all right, let's do it. So I joined that clique, and one of the producers in the clique, his name is Emil. He went on to produce for Kanye. He went on to produce for Eminem. His name is Emil Haney, also doing work with Florence and the Machine. He won Grammys, and we were like in the basement together, all working on my projects, the 7Ds projects. And because of that relationship, I wanted to move back to New York. So I moved to the New Jersey area. And when I moved to the New Jersey area, I went to Emil and I was like, Emil, like, where do I go to rap? I want to rap. He was like, let me connect you with my homegirl, Lana. She's an MC that went by the name Invincible in the early 2000s, and she was from Detroit. So she was a white female who was in the battle circuits, and she was a good friend of Emil. And I talked to Lana, and she was like, yo, you got to go to end of the week. You got to go to EO Dub. I was like, all right. So I pulled up to EO Dub, and when I pulled up, it was at Baby Jupiter. My first time pulling up, I remember seeing like Pumpkinhead and Breeze Ever Flowing. I had already had a relationship with Poison Pen and C. Ray's Walls because of an event in Florida when I was living down there. So I already had a relationship with Poison Pen. But a lot of these people, I had seen them on like the Blaze battles, different videos that we used to watch for battles, magazines and stuff like that. So I was a little starstruck. Big Zoo, I saw him on MTV. I was like, yo, that's the guy from MTV, you know what I'm saying? So I came there, and it felt like I was kind of a Ronin, like a samurai with no team. And I came up there, you know, I was down with 7Ds, but at the time, no one from the Ds was going over there with me. I was just like going by myself, like pulling up by myself, leaving by myself. And I felt like I was walking into an episode of The Warriors, you know what I'm saying? Like the movie The Warriors, where the gang's over here, and that's the way it was. It was like Stronghold Clique was over here. You had the Plague over here. You had the End of the Week crew over here. You had the Dutchman over here. There was all like gangs in New York. And I'm walking up in there, this guy who had been doing all of these things. And I felt like, yo, I'm about to blow their mind. They ain't see nothing yet. Get on the mic the first time and bombed. I like did not do well. There was a band playing. I never forget it. I went up there. There was a band playing. And he was playing so loud, and I was like, I'm just trying to say my rhymes. Like, I'm spitting bars, but nobody can hear me, right? And like people are talking, like no one's paying attention. And remember, I said you want to be the guy that they're like, yo, like who's that kid right there? People were probably like, oh, who's that guy? Who's that person with no gang? And I remember Zoo was like, he said, I don't remember exactly what he said. I'm gonna paraphrase, but he said something like, all right, come back, try again next week. It was like, get him next time, champ. Like, nice try. So I go home, and I had to drive, back to Jersey, and the Twin Towers were still standing at the time, and the lights were on and off.
Yo, this is like a very early end of the week then.
Yeah, this is like the start. The dub had been going for a few weeks. It was like in 2000, really early on in the game. So the Twin Towers, the lights are on and off, so it appeared, Holden, like they were eyes and a menacing grill. and the lights are blinking, and it's looking at me like, boy, if you don't get out of here, like go back down south, like you don't belong here. I'm gonna eat you up and spit you out. So I go back and I'm like, what am I gonna do? Am I gonna go back there again? Like maybe I'm not as good as I thought I was. Like now I'm in the big leagues. Like Breeze Ever Flowing is over there. What the hell am I gonna do, right? So I go back and I like, you know what? I gotta go back. So I go back the next week and I spit a verse. I think it might have been this verse called "I Have a Dream." It's like a play on, you know, Martin Luther King's speech, a hip hop version, and I killed it so much that they invited me to come to the first ever MC challenge. And then the next week or two, I was in the MC challenge and won the first ever end of the week MC challenge.
The first one in like the history of of all the MC challenges.
All the MC challenges.
You're the first winner of all of the ones.
All of the ones.
Like, you know, like if there's a Wikipedia page for a wrestling belt, right? You always scroll the first winner. It's the first winner and like the longest tenure, and then like, you know, like those are the things you care about.
Yeah.
So that's a big one.
I won some other challenges after that. I didn't win the national championship, or at the time the Challenger Champions. That year, C-Ray's Walls won the Challenger Champions, but I did win an All-Star Challenge, which was the last performance that Run DMC had in New York City together. I won that as well. So I got 2 challenge championships under my belt. So really happy about that.
That's fun. That's an amazing thing. So you're like in 2001 crushing your end of the week adventures, getting your pen game up, and how does that like evolve for you? Like,
well, I wanted to release music, so with my crew 7D, I worked with them to record an album, and end of the week actually helped me distribute and put out the album. So Zoo and Pro and God Bless the Dead, Vice pulled me under their coat and was like, nah, you with us, like be with us, like you're down with end of the week, we're gonna release your stuff. And then I had a friend of mine, his name is Zone and North Star. He was like, yo, he called me Physics. He's like, they call me Web of Physics. It was like, yo, Physics, yo, I got a show for us in London. We got to go to London. I was like, what do you mean London? London? He's like, trust me, we're going to get some tickets. We're going to go to London. Like, trust me. All right. So we get some tickets, first class tickets to London Heathrow. I'm going to say $500 first class tickets to London Heathrow. First time in Europe. I got like $500 to $800, dollars in my pocket. We get off, I go to currency exchange. I'm like, hey, can I get some money back? Ha ha ha. They give me back, like, I gave them 5. They gave me like 3 or 200 quid. I was like, I think you made a mistake. You know what I'm saying? I didn't even understand currency exchange. I was that green to like traveling and going abroad. That was my first time in Europe. Long story short, we rocked out the shows. We ended up staying in Europe for a number of months. And then when I finally came back to New York, I had a sit down with Vice and James in James's dad's house. I never forget it. At the time, we were still growing. End of the week was still very new. I think we were going into our second season. And then I was like, yo, guys, I saw it. And what we need to do is we need to take end of the week to Europe. And Vice and James were like, what are you even talking about, bro? The same way I guess I was talking to Zone, like, what are you talking about? Like, what do you mean? Like, take it to Europe. How are you gonna do that? How are you gonna do that? And I remember looking at James and Vice. And again, I'm paraphrasing on the story. Like, I'm not saying it word for word, but it was definitely like when I told them that, I remember them being kind of like what? And then I just told them, all I need is for you to give me the consent to do it. Let me do it, and you don't worry about the rest. Like, I'll go there, I'll do it. Just, I need your blessing that I can do this, that I can represent on behalf of the dub. Like, yeah, go ahead. Like, good luck. You know what I'm saying? And you have to ask James. Vice is not here to speak, but I think at the time maybe we didn't understand as a team the importance of the dub to hip hop culture. We were just kind of throwing events because other people were throwing events too. This is the time of Lyricist Lounge, Rocky and Babito. A lot of people were doing events similar to us, but I think us taking it international is what separated us. So I saw the potential in it, and honestly, I didn't know if we could pull it off, but I know with everything that I had to try. And I would say probably about 6 to 8 months after that conversation, we had our first MC challenge in another country, which was in London at a record store called Deal Real. And we started the international movement.
Yeah, it's wild to think about. Like, it really is. Because, like, the ultimate impact of that is it hits Montreal at some point, which is a wonderful thing and has impacted my city's hip-hop scene. A lot of people have been involved in that. I mean, Shut up, Fende Febla. We got a TV show up
Yep.
here now.
This I
which is
know. Congratulations to the.
wild to think
Yep.
about. And yeah, it's like end of the week Quebec is in a lot, and to think that whoever it was that started the international endeavors actually had that big of an impact to hit like so many cities and so many like places, cultures. Like I met this dude through my album review adventures in Switzerland, and he participated in the dub out there, and I'm like, say word. It's like it's that big. Like pretty much anybody that's involved in a local scene in a place that the dub is at has heard of the dub.
And I believe what I want to move forward and do in the next year or two is do an official census for the dub, because I say 50K. Anytime I'm talking to people, I say we have at least 50,000 active members or participants at some point. It might be more than that if you consider like audience members and stuff like that, but I want to do like an official census, an international census, so we can get a count, because that's a powerful, bit of data if we could really get an accurate, handle on it.
I love everything you just said. I want to know how many rappers are in Montreal, because that would be such a powerful piece of data to know.
Yeah, and you know what? I think the whole thing that's happening with Royce the 5'9" and Lupe, all of this talk, this is something that is really been 21 years in the making for us to be like being discussed on mainstream platforms, because the dub is the most important hip hop institution and movement right now. There have been so many hip hop movements in the time of our history, right? But an international collective that weaves together different nations, regardless of your native tongue, and allows us to not just have fellowship and brotherhood and sisterhood, but also to compete, respectfully compete in a structured manner. Come on, man. It's like, you can't write this stuff, you know what I'm saying? And that's no knock to any organization or movement that came before us. I just know in this critical turning point of where hip hop is in the history of our culture and the age of this culture, that to have people who don't even know that they're rappers in France get to discover that because of what we're doing here is mind-blowing.
I definitely agree with that. I mean, like I said, y'all impacted where I'm at in a pretty significant way. I've talked to a lot of people. Anywhere that has access to the dub speaks highly of the dub. I think that's the thing that's the most incredible. Now, maybe there's a bias towards people coming on this particular show and speaking highly of the dub, but I also talk to people not on this show, like that speak highly of the dub if they're from New York and things like that. Like, I can't say people in random places in like Western Canada have heard of the dub, and sometimes that happens, but in general, it's like there's nobody that I've met that has participated in or encountered End of the Week that isn't left with a sense of respect and admiration for what it is, especially for the group of people that crave hip-hop purity in its finest. You are
well
like
said, brother.
The ultimate solution to a hip-hop purist.
Well said, sir. I appreciate that. One thing I would add to that is that, you said you guys, and that includes you too, though, Holden.
Yeah.
Like you, and I think that's the power in the dub, is that the people who are like leading the organization, the movement, like we allow people to have ownership over it because it's bigger than us. You know what I'm saying? This is something that must live on beyond my days on this planet. You know what I'm saying? And that's the mindset that we have right now. And I'm really excited about the next level of what we're going to do, or the next, the next chapter, because we're working on a lot right now, man. And I think that this is the time to really, unite the culture on an international scale. Like people don't got crew members in, Uganda, yo. Like people don't do that. You know what I'm saying? We got, like, you could pull up Holden, you could pull up in 15 to 17 countries right now and be like, yo, Holden is coming. And somebody will pick you up from the airport, feed you, and give you somewhere to rest. Like, that's the kind of network we've built, you know what I'm saying? Which is, like, you can't even get a good assessment of it from asking someone who knows about it. Try to describe it to someone who's unaware of it and see how they respond. That's when you find out how powerful the dub is.
Honestly, it's pretty it's like that. I mean, it's also a deep culture. Like, the dub is not the easiest thing to encounter and understand. It takes a minute. Like, it was like,
People don't believe it. They're like, what, how do they do that? How do they judge them in different languages? Like, no, we get multilingual judges. What's a multilingual judge? Like, what is that? Why are you doing that? You know what I mean? It's crazy.
all of it though is impressive. Like, I just talked to Basics, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he went to, I think it was Prague or whatever the last international one was. And man, when he talks about his experiences doing that, it's like, especially anybody I've talked to who's managed to travel through end of the week Quebec, a lot of these, it's like their first real opportunity. And then the scale of the show he described is like bigger than, you know, a lot of the stuff that you can get locally. And just the whole experience is big. And from what I'm understanding, all of this ties down to you going, all right, let me go run a thing.
Let me go do this. Just gets, again, asking for permission. Because at the time I was crew, but I was still like, I was like a good rapper. I hadn't proven that I could organize or I could lead. So I had to go to the main people and say, yo, I want to do this thing. Do I have your blessing? They gave me the blessing, and the rest is history. You know, from there, I helped to launch the France chapter with my man Sammy Jackets. I helped to start the German chapter with a guy named David Devilis. I helped to start the Spanish chapter with my man Dave Zona North. I also helped to start the first ever Netherlands event and a few other one-offs in Europe. But, you know, again, for me, I'm just, you know, for me being on this call with you is poetic for me, because like I'm like really digging in to EOW culture and the movement. Namely, the biggest thing is because of losing Vice. Like before Vice passed away, he sent me a message on Instagram and was like, yo, I love what you're doing with the beats, man. Can I get some beats? How much? Or something like that. And I was like, bro, like, I got you, whatever. He's like, dope, I'm happy to connect. So we were about to reconnect. The pandemic hit, and I was driving through New York City, going to deliver some phones for some of my staff members as I was trying to escape with my family to Michigan to get out of New York. And I was alone. My family weren't with me. They weren't with me. So I was passing by Vice's house. So I stopped, I did a U-turn, and I pulled around. I came up to Franklin to, you know, where he lived, and I made a left turn, and I pulled up, and I looked up, and I saw the lights were on, but I didn't get out. I was like, well, it's a pandemic. That'd be weird. I didn't call. I was like, I'll see him next time. And I never got to see him. So now with this opportunity that I have to bring whatever skill sets I've developed over the last 21 years being involved with this, you know, movement, that I won't let another opportunity to step up pass by. And that's why, you know, I think it's poetic for me to be sharing this story with you.
I respect that a lot. I also think that you've got a lot of skills. We did just get a question though. In what other countries would you like to see End of the Week expand if you could pick a couple of places to add right now?
We did have some chapters in South America for a while. We had Brazil going for a while. I believe we had Argentina for a while. I'd like us to have our South American, you know, chapters come back strong. But honestly, my dream, Holden, was always that we had a chapter on every continent. And the only continent we haven't hit, I believe, is Antarctica. So Antarctica.
I would argue that would be a cool chapter. That would be.
It'll be tough. It might be a cruise. It might be a cruise challenge. But I think if we're gonna create the bucket list for what I would like to see for the dub, my wildest dreams have been fulfilled in terms of what I imagined for us. I thought that maybe we'll do a couple of chapters in Europe. I never would have expected it to grow as fast as it did, and now eventually 21 years later, to have touched as many people and been on as many different soils and continents that we've been on. But if I had to pick, it would be Antarctica.
I respect that. I would go to that show. That would be one of those shows you'd be surprised maybe, but I mean, that sounds like history that people would talk about for history. Like that time, those people went to Antarctica to do an MC challenge.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. It would be like, that kind of deal.
That's like an expensive ass fucking ordeal. That's probably like $100K a person type thing.
Oh yeah, we could probably, you know, do it like a fundraiser or something. I'm sure some, you know, that could be a real Elon Musk type event.
That would be amazing. Yeah, people are also feeling the Antarctica idea. How do you get into TikTok coaching? And because just to touch on some of what you're up to like now to like jump ahead, because I know we don't have a lot of time left.
Yeah. And because we started late too, Holden, if we need to go an extra 10 or 15, I'm fine with that, just to put it out there.
I'm gonna take whatever I can get from you because your story is fascinating and your
Yeah.
insight's powerful.
Yeah. No, that's a great question. It really started after I started working a job. I worked for a really big nonprofit in New York City for about 10 years. And when that job came, I had to kind of take a step back from the dub. So I talked to people about it, and I'm kind of comfortable about it now to say that at the time when I left the dub, I never really had the discussions with the people that were important in the movement. I kind of just went about my business to do what I needed to do for my family and for my career. And for that, I'm open about, and I'll say I'm regretful for that, because I believe that because of what we've built here, that I owed it to the key players at least to speak to them. But I never really had that conversation. It just kind of turned into was gone for a couple of weeks to a couple of months, and before I knew it, 5 years had passed by and I hadn't really been involved with the dub. And you know how it is if you don't talk to a friend for a long time. Like when you do talk to them after a while, it's like, hey, sorry I haven't talked to you in 3 years, but I'm back, you know. So because of that, I had a craving for music. I still wanted to create. So I started making beats. And once I started making beats, my brother, Vanna Ritchie, as you guys know, he's an accomplished producer and DJ, you know what I'm saying? And he told me like, yo, them joints is actually kind of hot. And right then when I got a cosign, I was like, really? Like my little rinky dink beats are hot? Let me invest in some equipment. So I got some equipment, started making beats. Before I knew it, I got some mentors, Legion Beats and Anno Domini, who are some really successful producers. The first online beat sellers to make over $1 million selling beats online. And I took their course and I went through their master class, learned how to sell beats online, and I started building a profitable beat selling business. Most of my customers were new artists who had questions, and they were like, yo, Robbin, like, how do I get on Spotify? Like, oh, Robbin, how do I get, how do I get my publishing squared away? Like questions that I had to answer for that I was given for free. And then finally, one of my clients was like, yo, Robbin, how much to hire you as a consultant? And I was like, $50 an hour? He was like, all right, cool. Can we book 2 hours? I was like, yes, we can. And that kind of started me coaching. It wasn't until I was in a Clubhouse room in March of 2021. I want to say February of 2021, when a gentleman, his name is Wave Formation. He's a producer coach. He coaches producers. And he was like, yo, Robbin, you got to get on TikTok. Like, take it serious. Spend some time on TikTok. Went online on TikTok, did miserable, posted a bunch of videos. They didn't go well, whatever. Then just like with my beat selling, I said, you know what? Let me find a coach and a mentor for this. So I thought about who I could reach out to, and connecting it back to EOW, a brother named Roz Hendricks, who's a EOW family member. He's one of us, right? I reached out to him. He has I want to say 3 million followers on TikTok right now. He has like a TikTok career. He performed at, I want to say the iHeart Music Awards for TikTok. He also has a deal with ESPN, got his music on ESPN through TikTok. And I reached out to him like, yo, can we jump on a call? And I asked him like, yo, is it cool if you mentor me? I need a mentor because I want to learn how to do this. And he did that. And from there, my account just grew, and I was still doing my beats, still doing my coaching. And then I was like, by the time I had hit like 50,000 followers, I was like, you know what? This would bring the independent musician community so much value. Let me take the time now, while the organic reach on TikTok is still in the early adopter phase, where we can still like get that big organic push. Let me focus on just this thing right now, because I had for many years doing my beats, done a bunch of things good, but I hadn't really done one thing excellent. I was selling beats and coaching. I was doing beat packs and exclusive beats, doing interactive beat sessions with artists, but also doing email marketing, all of these different things. But I wasn't nailed down on one thing. When TikTok came, it was like, let me just press pause on everything else and give this 100%. And I believe it's one of, if not the best decision that I made for my business, you know what I'm saying, for Robbin Markx, the business, and the brand.
That's incredible. I have a lot of trouble liking TikTok as a creator. It's not that I don't like it as a I actually went there and I was watching your stuff. I was watching you react to like slicing up bananas, and then a lot of you like cat reaction videos a lot, I noticed. And your little reviews. I was like, say where
the music reviews.
You can do a review and say one sentence. And I'm
Yep.
like, I didn't know that you were a lot. Like, bro, I make 90-minute album reviews, okay? And I'm
But you
watching.
know what, too? Holden, those are, every one of the music reviews are sponsored posts. So every one of those is an artist saying, hey, I want you to promote my album and do your music review. Here's a certain amount of money. So
I
every
mean,
one of the music reviews is a paid post.
I figured as much. I was like watching. I'm like, he loves this all.
He loves everything. But
I
you know
mean,
what? Here's the thing, Holden. I can always find something good to say. I just don't have to say the bad stuff. If it's something that I
facts.
really don't rock with, like I have had some stuff that I was like, ooh, like I can't really do that one. But for the most part, like I love music. Like I can find something good. Like, oh, and I really love at 3 minutes and 30 that the cymbals crash really hard. Love that. I'm not gonna, you know, come on, like,
Somebody's gonna watch
you
this and be
know, I
like,
like
wait a second, he's talking.
the details. But no, again, like to go back to what you said, for me, my adult mind could not wrap my head around TikTok for the longest. And just like you, I was like, I can't, I won't, I will not. What happened was the same thing I believe that happened to me with Instagram. With Instagram, I was like, I don't really want to share pictures, like whatever, like boom. And I kind of let the wave go by and then I jumped on later because I had to, right? And with TikTok, because of the environment that I'm in with a lot of digital marketing people and entrepreneurs, it's like you have to pay attention to everything, right? Like don't miss a wave. So for me, I was just kind of taking a leap of faith with some guidance from my mentor, and it led to me realizing the potential. So not just the potential in terms of like viral explosion of growing a fan base for an artist, but also the little secondary revenue streams that can be created from TikTok. Like their creator fund, like literally will pay you for creating content. You know what I'm saying? Like money is accumulating right now in an account that when I'm ready to withdraw it, I can withdraw it based on how many views my videos get and stuff like that. And then there's the paid sponsorship to approach it as an influencer. And for many years, like influencer had a nasty, connotation for me. I was like, ooh, like I could never do that. Like, why do people even say that? But then going into this arena and realizing like record companies and businesses are using influencer marketing to market their products. Like that is the jam. Like that's where it is. So if you can build an audience and at the same time also create additional revenue streams, then it's adding to the health of your business. And that's one of the reasons why I'm preaching and standing on the hilltop telling musicians specifically to start on TikTok.
So here's my problem, my biggest problem with TikTok. So if I could ask for a piece of free advice. I am addicted to long form fucking content. It's the easiest shit. The editing is nothing. And as a person who doesn't like video editing a lot and doesn't really know how to think small content, what is the best way to approach actually creating TikToks? Because like I don't know how to think 15 seconds.
Yep. So I'll do a quick spiel for you. So this is what I would do. I would literally reset your mind in terms of everything you know about content creation and social media. I believe that, like you just said, you are a long form content person. So you could do one or two things. Lean into what you're good at and what you want to do. I always tell people when I do like a discovery call with somebody, like if I'm not a good fit for you, I'm not going to be like, okay, come, let's do the thing together. And the biggest thing is, do you want to do it? If people are feeling like, man, I got to do this thing, let me go ahead and get a Twitter. I got to tweet, right? And you're doing it from a place of, I have to do it because it's like an industry standard, as opposed to, hey, it's another creative outlet that I can experiment and try new stuff and also evolve as a creator. Then if you don't look at it like that, then it's not going to be successful. So that's the first thing. You just got to hit reset and say, okay, let me have the mindset that I'm going to go into this with a positive attitude and I'm going to test it out and I'm going to do some 15-second videos. Now, technically, if you are a long form content creator and you don't know how to make 15-second videos, what I would encourage you to do is to break your content up into 15 to 30-second clips. So if you have a 3-minute video, for example, or let's say you do 90-minute reviews, right? Let's just use your reviews, for example. I would take the 5 highlights from those and turn those into a 2-minute video. From that 2-minute video, I would just record them in 15 to 30-second clips and just make sure you end every video, which is probably arguably the most important part of creating TikToks is include some call to action at the end of your video. So yours would be, and that's why the record stinks. Follow for part 2. And then you go to the next one. And that's why it stinks some more. Follow for part 3. You know, if you're liking this, get ready for part 4, and just keep leading them. By the time you've done it, you had a series of 8 videos. So that's the way a long form content creator will be able to adjust to the TikTok landscape.
I see what she's saying, but that call to action thing at the end is interesting still, because you do it in all your videos. Hit the plus in the link in bio. Hit the plus, link in bio. Hit the
everything. And you could change it too, you know what I'm saying? There are different ways to say it. I just always teach that what you want to do is grow your audience. So your call to action right now, unless you're releasing a specific product or a project, is for people to follow you.
Bro, I love this. This is super interesting. I mean, I have dibbled and dabbled in the talk, don't get me wrong.
But you've done some talking.
Well, Matt, because what I realized is me and the homeboys can do some corny shit, like rap at each other in like short videos and tag each other, and I'm slowly like integrating into that world a bit. It's often a memory I don't remember to TikTok is more the issue, which is habits and scheduling and shit. But when I realized the potential of like, maybe not the standard music TikTok grind with regards to rapping on industry beats, but like on a very local front, if you and like 15 rappers just start rapping at each other like y'all are already famous, that kind of shit can create mystique. You're constantly tagging each other, which forces at least a few little algorithm signals and shit, and then you kind of do well together. It's like taking the concept of a YouTuber house and bringing it to TikTok.
Well said. Really, really well said. I love that.
Yeah.
And if you need help, Holden, like I always take care of my people. Just like reach out to me. I'm around. And actually, I just started about, I want to say a week ago, a new Facebook group. And, you know, it's called TikTok for Musicians. And a young lady named Dano, who was running the group before, reached out to me, and she was like, yo, Robbin, I got this group of musicians. Do you want the group? Because I'm not giving them what they need, and I believe you can do it. I was like, okay. Took the group. We got like, since I took over, like 70 new people joined, you know what I'm saying, in a week, and it's growing really fast. And it's really all about building a community around TikTok. So I'll love to have you stop by.
Yeah, I definitely saw that. I found your Linktree thing or whatever one you use. Find your Facebook. I looked at it because my big question is, where are people from? So you had to do a little stalking there. But no, definitely check out the group. I think you clearly know what you're doing. Like, I remember I saw the TikTok where you're like, Robbin, how did you get 2 million? How does it feel getting 1 million videos things? And you're just like, I don't know. You know what it is. I was hilarious.
You're talking about the press conference conference videos. I like those.
And all of that vibe. And it's like, I mean, it's one thing to like say it from the perspective of somebody, I guess, who has like, you know, 10,000 followers, which you can, I don't know, you have 100K, but you're also hitting like 25K regular views type thing. And I'm like, oh, say word. That's not bad at all. That's like, because, you know, sometimes you see the initial spike on TikTok and then it goes to the really, really small numbers for a while.
Well, it goes up and down too. Like and Holden, that's the thing that I tell people. Like, some people have developed a certain level of authority on the platform where no matter what they drop, it's going to do big numbers. And big numbers for you might be different for someone else. And that's what I tell people. So even for me, I have videos that don't do well, that have hundreds of views. And you know what? That's okay. And I think that some people do look at it like that. They're like, oh, he has so many thousand followers, but he only has this many views. I'm like, is that what you're spending time doing?
I totally took it from like, you were doing well with those views. I didn't take it the other way. I'm like,
no. I'm just saying though, but look, especially for my students, I have people in my group, my community members, who like are really fixated on that. And I know that the performance of a video is really important, but we're going to have videos that win and we're going to have videos that lose. And I think that it's just like basketball. Like, if you miss a shot, you can't be like, God, like they're going to see that I missed a shot. Like, no, like you missed a shot, go take another shot. And that's what you got to do on TikTok.
Love it. That's super helpful for real. Honestly, I don't want to keep you long. I mean, I do, but I don't want to keep you too long. He's like, I got kids. They're not supervised. I'm like, fair enough.
Don't say that too loud. No, they're with their mom.
Yeah.
But could I share the link to the Facebook group? Is that okay?
Absolutely. Yeah, you can
So if
share it.
anybody wants to join or just check it out, it's bit.ly/free. bit.ly/FB TikTok group. The letter FB TikTok group.
Say a word. I was gonna go find it, linking it, but that was pretty quick. Also, it's gonna be linked down below in the videos and stuff.
Appreciate that, man. Thank you so much.
But
can I give you guys a free training for your audience?
Yeah, go for it. I always want free trainings.
And I can also send this to you. So again, it's bit.ly/free TikTok training. So if you want to learn a little bit about it and have a 3-step method, a proven 3-step method that'll help you to get more followers right now, just go to bit.ly/free TikTok training.
For sure. I'm gonna definitely check that out. I'm honestly curious about how you go about making training materials.
Check it out.
But I'm going to, and it's cool that you do this. Like a lot of people don't take the time to learn that side of things, right? Mm-hmm. And I feel like the fact that you bring that to the table is just hugely valuable to everybody in music who encounters you.
Thank you, man. Thank you so much, brother.
So I definitely appreciate having you here. And thanks for sharing what you've done so far. We hope to have you back. And thanks to
I'd love to come back. I'd love to have Flacko here when you come back. I'm sure it'll be a different kind of vibe, but I'm really glad we got to connect.
Because Flacko would have just cut this off and directed it, and he'd be like, no, we need to delve into this story that I know about that he's going to talk about. And I'm like, fair enough. I don't know any of that shit. But
it'll be 2 different interviews.
It's completely different. But I don't know, they're great. I don't know. I don't have I like the fact that like the Flacko one like breaks up the pace for the other ones for me, so it's like a different vibe and it just kind of makes it like really alive. But like I feel like they're both experiences that are good, like they're really helpful, and I appreciate it personally when I can hear stuff, especially from people who aren't from where I'm from and seen different things. That's why we like the name Perspectives, because it's what it's really about. But shout out End of the Week for hosting this. Make sure to follow End of the Week and all their stuff. eodub.com has all their links. It's one place, so I don't have to say 7 of them. Make sure to follow, subscribe, all that good stuff, everyone. Appreciate having you here. Do you have any last things you want to say to the fine folk on the internet before we end the stream?
Just thank you, Holden, for this interview. This has been amazing, and also big shout out to EODub for this platform, and my man Flacko. I wish he was here, and I'll definitely come back.
Yeah, I definitely appreciate that too. On that note, everyone, it was super great having y'all here. Live long and prosper, everyone.